Let me ask you something. Have you ever watched English movies, gone to English classes, even studied grammar? But when you try to speak, your mind goes blank? You forget the words. You don't know how to make the sentence. You feel stuck. Does this happen to you? Don't worry. It happens to many people. You think, I watch films. I study hard. I do everything my teacher says. Why can't I speak fluently? The answer is simple. You are missing one important thing, something most learners forget. That thing is reading. Yes, reading. I know it sounds boring. I know you think reading is too hard. But I promise, reading in English is one of the best ways to improve your language. It helps you learn new words. It helps you understand grammar. It even helps you become more confident when you speak. And the best part? You don't need to memorize anything. You don't need to write notes. You just read. Reading gives your brain English in a natural way, like a child learning their first language. Slowly, your brain understands the patterns. You see the same words many times. You see how sentences are made. You learn without thinking too much. And reading doesn't have to be boring. You can read stories, comics, short books, even fairy tales. If it's fun, you will learn more. If it's easy, you will read more. If you read more, you will speak better. So stay with me. I will tell you everything, step by step. Even if you're a beginner, you can do this. In the end, you will understand why reading is the secret to learning English. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Why reading is the key to English. Why should I read in English? My students ask. I go to English class. I do grammar exercises. I even watch English films. Isn't that enough? But I always say the same thing. If you want to learn English well, really well, you must read. Reading is not just helpful. It is the key to everything. When you read, your brain sees how English works. You see real sentences. You see real grammar. You see new words in context. That means you understand the word because of the words around it. You don't need to study a long list of vocabulary. You just read. The words come again and again, and your brain starts to remember them. Reading also helps your grammar. You don't need to think, is this present simple or past simple? Your brain sees the patterns again and again, and then one day you just know. You feel what is right, not because you studied the rule, but because you read it 100 times. Reading helps with spelling too. Think about it. When you see words often, you remember how they look. If you only hear a word, you might know the sound, but you don't know how to write it. Reading shows you the words over and over, and slowly you learn how to spell them without even trying. Many people believe that speaking is the most important skill. I understand. Speaking is exciting. It feels active. You feel like you're really using the language. But here's the truth. Before you speak well, you need to understand a lot of English. You need something called input. That means you need to hear and read a lot of English before you can speak it easily. Think about a baby. A baby listens for a long time before they say their first words. You are the same. Reading gives you more input than anything else. You can read slowly. You can go back if you don't understand. You don't need to be fast. You don't need to feel shy. The book doesn't laugh at you. The book doesn't tell you that's wrong. It just waits for you. When you read, you also start to think in English. This is important. Many learners always translate in their heads from their language to English. That takes time. That makes mistakes. But when you read often, you start to feel how English sentences work. Your brain makes faster connections. You start thinking in English, and that changes everything. I had a student named Maria. She was from Brazil. She could speak some English, but it was slow. She always stopped to think. She wanted to speak faster, so I told her, "Try reading." She said, "But I want to speak, not read." Still, she listened. She read a simple story every night before bed. After 2 months, she came to class and spoke faster, with better grammar. She didn't study any grammar. She just read. So yes, reading works. Not just for me, not just for one student. It works for everyone who tries it. If you want to improve your vocabulary, grammar, spelling, writing, and even speaking, start reading. You don't have to read a lot. Even 10 minutes a day is enough. But make it a habit. Make it part of your life. Reading is not something extra. It is not something nice to do. It is the foundation, the base of learning English. It is the first step toward thinking, writing, and speaking better English. Now you know why reading is the key. In the next chapter, I'll show you how reading works in your brain and why it helps you learn faster than you think. Chapter 2. What happens in your brain when you read? Now you know. Reading is important. But maybe you're still asking, how does reading help me learn English? What happens inside my brain when I read in English? The answer is simple and amazing. When you read, your brain is doing many things at the same time. You are looking at words. You are thinking about the meaning. You are hearing the sentence in your mind, even if you are reading silently. And slowly, your brain starts to understand how English works, all by itself. Let me explain. When you do grammar exercises, you try to remember rules. You think, this is the past tense. This is the present perfect. I need to put have before the verb. That's okay, but it's hard. You use your short-term memory, and short-term memory is not strong. You forget things quickly. But when you read a story, you see the same grammar again and again. You are not thinking about the rule. You are just enjoying the story. But your brain is noticing. It sees the same grammar many times, in many different ways. This is called natural grammar learning. You don't study it. You feel it. Your brain also starts to remember new words, not just the meaning, but also the spelling, the sound, and the way it is used. When you see a word in one sentence, your brain might not remember it. But when you see it in 10 different stories, your brain says, "Ah, I know this word now." That's called long-term memory. That is how real learning happens. Many people use flashcards. Flashcards can help, but they are not the best way to remember words. Why? Because flashcards are just one word at a time. Your brain doesn't see the word in a sentence. It doesn't feel the meaning. It's not fun. It's just work. But when you read a story, You learn words in real sentences. You learn how native speakers use them. You learn the emotion of the word. You learn the word with context. And that's how your brain remembers it. Your brain also loves patterns. That means it likes when things happen again and again. When you read stories, the grammar and words repeat. The sentences are similar. Your brain sees the same structure in many different ways. Slowly, without thinking, your brain learns the pattern. For example, let's say you read this sentence. She didn't go to the party. Maybe later you read, he didn't eat his lunch. And later again, they didn't finish the homework. Your brain starts to think, didn't, plus verb. That means something didn't happen. You didn't study it. You just read it, again and again. This is called comprehensible input. That means you read something that is easy enough to understand, but not too easy. You don't understand every word, but you understand the meaning. You don't feel stress. You don't feel tired. You enjoy it. That's the best kind of learning. When you enjoy reading and you understand the story, your brain is relaxed. And when your brain is relaxed, it learns more. That's why reading is better than tests, better than exercises, better than trying to remember a list of words. Reading is powerful. You are giving your brain thousands of examples of real English. The grammar, the words, the spelling, they all go into your brain. You don't need to remember them. Your brain remembers them for you, slowly, without pain, without pressure. This is how children learn. They hear words many times. They don't study grammar books. They don't do tests. They just listen and talk and listen and talk. You are doing the same thing, but with reading. That's why reading works. So now you know what reading does inside your brain. In the next chapter, we will talk about something very interesting. We will compare reading to traditional learning, to grammar lessons, vocabulary books, and memorizing. You will see why reading is not only easier, but also more powerful than most methods people use. Chapter 3. Reading versus traditional learning. Many students spend years learning English. They go to grammar classes. They study vocabulary lists. They do speaking drills. But still, they cannot speak fluently. Still, they make simple mistakes. Still, they feel nervous when they try to speak. Why? Because they are learning English in the traditional way, the old way. And that way is not enough. Let me tell you about my student, Ahmed. He studied English for 6 years in school. He knew grammar rules. He could do tests very well. But when he came to my class and tried to speak, he couldn't. He said things like, I go, yesterday, market. He knew it was wrong, but he didn't know why. He was frustrated. He said, why can't I speak? I know the grammar. I gave him one piece of advice. Start reading. He didn't believe me at first. I need to speak, not read, he said. But I told him, just try. Read for 15 minutes a day. Choose something easy. Don't use a dictionary. Just enjoy the story. After 1 month, his speaking got better. His grammar got better. His vocabulary got better. He didn't study grammar rules anymore. He just read, and his English improved. Why did that happen? Because reading gives you something that traditional learning cannot give, a feeling for the language. When you read, you don't think about grammar. You just see the sentences. Again and again, you feel what is right. You feel what sounds natural. Now, I want to tell you about a real study. In Fiji, a group of researchers tested 3 ways of teaching English. One group studied grammar in the traditional way. The second group read silently in class. The third group listened while the teacher read to them. Guess what happened? The 2 reading groups did much better than the grammar group. Not just in reading, but in grammar tests too. That's right. The students who didn't study grammar rules, who just read, became better at grammar than the students who studied the rules. They did the same experiment in Singapore. This time, the group that only read silently in class got the best scores in grammar. Even better than the group that had grammar lessons every day. This is not theory. This is science. Reading works. Why? Because grammar rules are just descriptions of patterns. When you do grammar exercises, you see 1 or 2 examples of a rule. But when you read a story, you see the same pattern 20 or 30 times. In different ways, with different words. Slowly, your brain understands the pattern. You don't need to think. You just know. Another reason is that vocabulary lists are dry. You learn the word, but you forget it quickly. The brain does not remember words alone. The brain remembers words in a sentence, in a story, in a picture. That's why stories work. They connect the word to something real. And what about speaking drills? They help a little. But if you don't have the words inside you, you can't speak. Reading puts the words inside you. Then, when you speak, you have something to say. Let me tell you about another student, Lin from China. She said to me, "I study hard. I remember 20 new words every day, but when I speak, I don't use them." I said, "Do you read?" She said, "No time for reading. Too slow." So we made a plan, 10 minutes a day, just 1 short story, no dictionary, no stress. After 3 weeks, she came to class and said, "I used 3 new words in my speaking today, and I didn't even try." She was shocked, but I wasn't. That's what reading does. So, grammar rules are good, vocabulary lists are okay, speaking drills are useful. But if you want to really know English, if you want to speak naturally, understand quickly, and feel the language in your brain, you must read. Reading is not just for fun. It's not just something extra. It is the heart of language learning. And science agrees. In the next chapter, we'll talk about the kinds of books you should read, because reading the right books is just as important as reading itself. Chapter 4. What should you read? Okay, so now you understand why reading is important. You know it helps your grammar, vocabulary, and speaking, and you want to start. But maybe you're asking, what should I read? That's a good question, because reading the wrong book can be boring, or even worse, it can make you feel like giving up. The first thing I want to tell you is this. Don't read like you are in school. You are not reading to pass a test. You are not reading to write a book report. You are reading to enjoy, to have fun, to feel the English in your brain. That's called reading for pleasure. Reading for pleasure means you choose books that make you happy. You choose stories that make you smile, laugh, or even cry. You choose books that are fun and interesting for you, not for your teacher, not for a test, not because someone told you to. Many of my students say, "But fairy tales are for kids." I understand. You want to learn real English. You want to learn business English or academic English or professional English. But here's a secret. Fairy tales, comics, and stories are full of real English. They use common words, they use important grammar, and most of all, they are fun. If you enjoy the story, you will read more. If you read more, you will learn more. It's really that simple. So, what kinds of books are good for beginners? First, graded readers. These are books written for English learners. They come in different levels, a 1, a 2, B1, and so on. They use simple words, short sentences, and easy grammar. Many of them are famous stories, rewritten for learners. These are a great place to start. 2. Fairy tales. Yes, fairy tales. You already know many of them in your language. That helps a lot. When you know the story, it's easier to follow the English. And the language is useful. It's the kind of English we use every day. 3. Comics. Comics are great. They are short, they have pictures, they are fun, and they use a lot of spoken English, the kind of language you hear in real life. You can learn jokes, slang, and common phrases. 4th, short stories. Short stories are perfect because they are not too long. You can finish one in a day or two. You feel good when you finish something. That gives you motivation to keep going. Now, let's talk about something very important. How do you know if a book is right for you? There is a simple rule. It's called the 98% rule. It means you should understand at least 98% of the words on the page. That means almost every word. Maybe only 1 or 2 new words per page, not 1 or 2 new words per sentence. That's too much. Here's why. If you don't understand most of the words, your brain gets tired. You stop enjoying the story. You pick up your dictionary every minute. That's not fun. And when it's not fun, you stop reading. But if you understand 98%, you can guess the new words. You follow the story. You learn the words naturally. You enjoy the reading. And most important, you keep going. Let me show you what 98% looks like. Here is a sentence where you understand only 90% of the words. Sarah flerned the basil and went to the bluff. It was a very storm day. That's confusing, right? Too many strange words. Now, here is 98%. Sarah opened the window and went to the park. It was a very warm day. Much better. Even if you don't know the word warm, you understand the sentence. That's why 98% is important. So, if a book is too hard, stop reading. Don't feel bad. Just find something easier. You are not a bad student. You are a smart learner. You know what your brain needs. You want to enjoy English. That's the goal. Sometimes students think, but easy books are not real learning. That's not true. Easy books are the best learning. When something is too hard, you don't learn. When something is just right, your brain relaxes and learns fast. So choose a book that feels easy. If it's interesting and fun, that's even better. If it makes you smile, laugh, or want to keep reading, that's the perfect book. In the next chapter, we'll talk about how to read. Should you use a dictionary? Should you read fast or slow? Should you read one book many times or read many different books? Don't worry, I'll explain it all step by step. Chapter 5. How to Start. If reading feels hard. Many students say the same thing to me. But reading is hard, or they say, reading is boring. I don't understand anything. I understand. Really, I do. You open a book. You see too many new words. You feel slow. You feel tired. You think, this is not for me. You close the book. But let me tell you something important. Reading feels hard at the beginning, for everyone. Even native speakers feel this way when they are young, and all English learners feel it when they start. But it gets easier, and it gets easier fast, if you keep going and don't give up. Let's talk about how to make reading easier. Start small. You don't need to read a big novel right now. Don't start with Shakespeare. Don't start with newspapers. That's too difficult. Instead, read something short and simple. One page, even one paragraph. That's enough. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to begin. I tell my students to start with children's books. Some students say, but those are for kids. Yes, they are, but they are also for beginners. Children's books use easy words, short sentences, and simple grammar. They also have pictures. That helps your brain understand the story without translating every word. And guess what? Some children's books are really fun. You can also read graded readers, books written for learners like you. They are made for your level. You don't need to guess. You just pick the level you want, A1, a 2, B1, and so on, and start reading. These books are great because they give you success. And when you feel success, you want to keep going. Now here's something important. You do not need to understand every word. This is a big mistake many learners make. They stop every 2 sentences and use a dictionary. They look up every new word. And after 5 minutes, they feel tired. They stop reading. They say, reading is too slow. But reading is not about knowing every word. It's about understanding the story. Your brain is smart. It can guess. It can understand the meaning from the sentence, the picture, or the situation. This is called context. Let me give you an example. Look at this sentence. Maria put butter on her toast and drank a cup of bloop. What is bloop? You've never seen this word before. But can you guess the meaning? Probably yes. It's probably a drink, maybe tea or coffee. That's the power of context. You don't need a dictionary. You just need the story. And guess what? Guessing is learning. When your brain guesses a word and then sees that word again, it remembers it. You learn naturally, without trying. Another strategy is skip the word. If you don't know a word, but you still understand the sentence, just keep reading. Don't stop. Don't lose the story. Most of the time, the word is not important. You can still enjoy the book. Some students ask, should I write the new words in a notebook? You can, but only if you want to. It's better to read more and meet the word again in another story. That's how children learn. That's how you can learn too. Now, let's talk about time. You don't need to read for hours. 10 minutes a day is enough, just like brushing your teeth. If you do it every day, your English will get better. Slowly, reading will become easier. You will read faster. You will understand more. And, very important, you will start to enjoy it. And when you enjoy it, it becomes a habit. My student Rosa started with reading 1 paragraph a day. At first, she didn't like it. She said, "I don't understand. I feel slow." But she didn't stop. After 2 weeks, she said, "Now I can read 1 page." After 1 month, she said, "I read for 15 minutes today, and I liked it." Now she reads every evening. Her English has improved more in 3 months than in the past 2 years. Reading is like exercise. The first days are hard, but if you keep going, it becomes fun, and your brain becomes strong. So here's what I want you to remember. Start with easy books, even books for children. Don't use a dictionary for every word. Guess the meaning from the story. Skip words that don't matter. Read a little every day. 10 minutes is enough. And most important, don't give up. Because soon your brain will change. Reading will feel natural. English will feel easier. And you will feel proud. In the next chapter, we'll talk about what reading does to your vocabulary and why reading teaches you more words than vocabulary lists ever can. Chapter 6. The Power of Stories. Let me ask you a question. Do you remember the grammar rules you learned in school? Probably not. But do you remember a story your grandmother told you when you were a child? Probably yes. That's because stories are powerful. In this chapter, I want to show you why reading stories is better than reading grammar books. I want to show you how your brain remembers language faster and for longer when it's part of a story. Grammar books give you rules. Word lists give you vocabulary. But stories give you something better. They give you language in action. When you read a story, you don't just see words. You feel them. You see how people use them. You understand when and why we use those words. Your brain connects the words to pictures, to feelings, and to ideas. And when we connect things, we remember them better. For example, let's look at this word, whisper. You can write it in a list. You can learn whisper, speak very quietly. But now imagine a story. The little girl tiptoes into the dark room. She goes close to her brother and says, "Don't wake up, Mum," she whispers. Now you can see the word. You can feel it. You know what it means without translating. That's the magic of stories. Stories also help you learn grammar without studying grammar. Here's what I mean. In grammar class, you learn, "She has gone to the store" is present perfect. But when you read stories, you just see that sentence many times. She has gone to the store. He has just finished dinner. They have already left. You start to feel the pattern. Your brain notices has plus past participle. You learn it without memorizing. This is called language input. And stories give you more input than any grammar book ever can. Now let's talk about vocabulary. Many students ask, how can I learn more words? And I always answer, read more stories. Stories give you repeated vocabulary in different situations. That's how your brain remembers. A word list gives you a word once. A story gives it to you 5 times in 5 different ways. For example, the word angry. In a story, you may read, he looked at her angry. She shouted with an angry voice. The angry dog barked all night. His face turned red. He was very angry. Why did you do that? He asked angrily. Now you don't just know the word angry, you know how to use it. Even fairy tales and comic books can help you learn academic or professional vocabulary. Yes, really. One study looked at people who read science fiction books. These books were full of words that students usually learn in school, words like environment, process, system, result, and analysis. These are words we see in science, in business, in university writing. Another study looked at 22 novels, normal novels for fun, and found that 85% of the words were from academic word lists. So even when you're reading a fairy tale, your brain is learning serious English. Isn't that amazing? You don't need a textbook to learn university vocabulary. You can learn it by reading a good story. Stories also help you learn how to think in English. Because in a story, things happen. People talk, they walk, they cry, they laugh. And when your brain follows the story, it follows the English too. You start to think, what will happen next? You guess the ending. You imagine the characters. You are no longer just learning English. You are living it. And that's the goal. We don't want to study English like math. We want to live it, feel it, understand it deeply. Stories help you do that. So remember this. Grammar books are okay. Word lists are okay. But stories are better. Stories give you grammar, vocabulary, sentence structure, and emotion, all at the same time. They are natural, they are fun, and they help you remember. Even one story a week can change how you feel about English. It's not boring anymore. It's exciting. You want to read more. And when you want to read, you learn faster. So, go find a story. Any story. A fairy tale, a comic, a short novel. If it's easy and fun, it's perfect. In the next chapter, we'll talk about how reading helps you think in English. Not just understand it, but use it without translating in your head. Chapter 7. What happens after 100,000 words? Let me tell you something exciting. The first 100,000 words you read in English will feel hard, maybe even boring. You'll see words you don't know. You'll feel tired. You'll wonder, is this really helping me? But then something amazing happens. After 100,000 words, your brain starts to change. It feels like magic, but it's not. It's just how learning works. This chapter is about what happens when you keep going, when you read more and more. 100,000 words, 300,000 words, 1,000,000 words. I will tell you what's waiting for you on the other side. I will also share my story, how I learned Spanish just by reading, and how you can do the same with English. Let's start with this question. What is 100,000 words? It sounds like a big number, but it's not that big. A short novel is about 30,000 to 40,000 words. So if you read just 3 short books, you're already close. Now let's imagine you read 10 minutes a day. That's about 2,000 words per day if the book is easy. In 50 days, you reach 100,000 words. That's less than 2 months. What happens then? At first, maybe you only understand the story by guessing. Maybe you don't know all the grammar. But now, your brain starts to see patterns. You start to recognize phrases. You stop translating. You just read. That's how learning really works. The first 50,000 words feel slow, but the next 50,000, they feel faster. You stop using the dictionary. You understand more and more. You enjoy the stories. And, this is the most important part, you start to believe, I can do this. That's what happened to me. Let me tell you a true story. In 2017, I wanted to learn Spanish. I had taken classes before, but I didn't learn much. I didn't like memorizing grammar. I didn't enjoy flashcards. I wanted to try something new. So I made a promise. I will read 1 million words in Spanish. 1 million. That's about 20 full-length novels. It sounds crazy, but I didn't start with hard books. I started small. I read children's stories, easy blogs, podcasts with transcripts. Then I read books I already knew, like Harry Potter, but in Spanish. Slowly, I moved to new books. After 100,000 words, I could feel the change. After 300,000, I could understand most things. After 500,000, I was reading without a dictionary. After 1 million, I was speaking. I was writing. I was thinking in Spanish, and I didn't study grammar rules, I just read. That's why I tell my students, reading is not fast, but it works, and once it starts working, it works better than anything else. So what can you expect? At 100,000 words, your confidence will grow. At 300,000 words, your vocabulary will double. At 500,000 words, you will start to think in English. At 1 million words, English will feel natural. Not perfect, but easy. You will understand grammar you never studied. You will use past tense, present perfect, conditional, not because you learned the rules, but because your brain feels them. You've seen the patterns again and again in stories. You will also stop being afraid. This is a big one. Many learners are afraid to speak. They feel shy. They feel like their English is not good enough. But when you read a lot, you know more. You have more words in your brain. You have more sentences in your head. You feel prepared. And when you feel prepared, you feel brave. That's why reading helps speaking, not directly, but deeply. Reading fills your brain with words and sentences. So when it's time to speak, your brain is ready. You don't need to make a sentence. You just say it. Like this. You don't think, what is the past tense of go? You just say, I went to the park. Because you've read it 50 times in stories, and that's how fluency begins, not with rules, not with lists, but with 100,000 words, then 1 million. Let me say one last thing. I know reading feels slow at first. You may think, I'm not learning, but that's not true. You are learning. deep inside your brain. Every story is giving you something: a word, a phrase, a feeling, a rhythm, a pattern. And when you keep reading day by day, it all adds up. So start today. Read something easy. Read something fun. Don't worry about perfection. Don't worry about grammar. Just read. Read 100,000 words. And then keep going. Because after 1 million words, you won't just learn English. You'll live in English. In the next chapter, we'll talk about how reading helps you learn to write. Yes, reading can make you a better writer, even if you never take a writing class. Chapter 8. Don't just read, read the right way. So now you know that reading is important. You know that it builds vocabulary, grammar, and confidence. You know that reading 100,000 words or even 1 million words can change your life. But here's something else you need to know. How you read matters. Reading in the wrong way can feel like hard work. Reading in the right way can feel like fun, and it will help you learn faster. Many students think reading means this: open a book, look at every word, translate everything into your language, get tired, and give up. That's the wrong way. It's not your fault. In school, you probably had to read difficult texts. You had to answer questions. You had to find the main idea. You had to explain grammar rules. But that's not real reading. That's school reading. What we want is language learning reading. And that's a different thing. Here's the secret. The best way to read is to read for fun. Read silently. Read without a dictionary. Read without stopping. Just keep going. You don't need to understand every word. If you understand most of the story, 95% or more, that's enough. Your brain will learn the rest. If a word appears again and again, you will slowly understand it, without stress. This is called comprehensible input. It means you can understand the story, even if some words are new. This kind of input is the most powerful tool for language learners, and reading gives you that input, in every sentence, on every page. So how should you read? First, read silently. Don't read out loud unless you enjoy it. Silent reading is faster and more natural. Your brain can understand more. Second, don't stop for every new word. If you stop all the time, your brain gets tired. You lose the story. Instead, just guess. Most of the time, you can understand the meaning from the sentence. If the word is very important and you see it many times, then maybe you can check it, but not the first time. Third, choose easy books. I said it before, and I'll say it again. Easy is good. If you understand 98% of the words, you're doing it right. If it's too hard, stop. Find something easier. That's not failure. That's smart learning. Fourth, read again. Yes, rereading is powerful. The second time you read a story, it's easier. You notice things you didn't see before. You remember grammar and words more clearly. You feel confident. So don't be afraid to read a story twice, or even 3 times. It helps more than you think. Fifth, track your progress. This is very motivating. Keep a notebook. Write the names of the books you finish. Write how many words you read. You can write short notes like, "I like this book," or "This story was funny." It helps you feel like you're moving forward, and you are. Sixth, build a habit. Reading once is good. Reading every day is amazing. Even 5 or 10 minutes a day can make a big difference. Choose a time. Maybe in the morning with coffee, maybe before bed. Make it a habit, something you do every day like brushing your teeth. Habits are the key to learning anything. Finally, combine reading with listening. This is very useful. You can listen to audiobooks or podcasts while reading the text. This helps your brain connect written words with spoken words. It improves your pronunciation, even if you're not speaking. It helps your listening skills. It makes the words come alive. For example, you can listen to a podcast for learners, like English spoken stories, and read the transcript at the same time. You see the words, you hear the sounds, your brain connects them. It's double learning. Or, if you have an audiobook and the book together, you can listen and read at the same time. Many learners find this very helpful. So let's review the best way to read. Read silently. Don't translate everything. Choose easy and fun books. Reread your favorites. Track your progress. Make it a daily habit. Try listening while reading. All these steps are simple, but together, they are powerful. Reading is not just about understanding words. It's about building a life in English, one page at a time. And the good news? You don't have to be perfect. You just have to keep going. In the next and final chapter, we'll talk about how reading leads to writing, how stories make you a better writer, even if you never take a writing class. You'll see how reading helps your English grow in ways you never expected. Chapter 9. Your Reading Plan. Start today. This is it. Your last step. You know why reading is powerful, how it works in your brain, and why it's better than grammar classes or vocabulary lists. Now, it's time for action. I'm going to guide you step by step on how to start your reading journey today. No excuses. This is where it all comes together. The key to improving your English is to begin reading, and the best time to start is right now. Step 1. Choose your first book. The first thing you need is a book. But not just any book. The right book. The right book is one that's fun, easy, and interesting. Don't pick something too hard. Remember, you want to enjoy reading, not stress about every word. Start with something like a short story, a comic book, a graded reader, a book you've already seen in a movie or TV show. If you don't know where to start, try looking for books specifically made for English learners. They are designed to be easier and more enjoyable. Many learners start with fairy tales, and that's a great place to begin. Step 2. Set a goal for daily reading. Next, decide how much you want to read each day. Don't worry, you don't have to read for hours. Even just 5 minutes a day is enough. Start small, especially if you're a beginner. You could aim for 5 minutes a day if you're super busy. 10 to 15 minutes a day if you can spare more time. The important thing is to read every day. Reading a little bit each day is better than reading a lot once in a while. Regular practice builds momentum. Step 3. Create a routine. Consistency is the key to success. Decide when and where you'll read every day. It could be in the morning with your coffee, during your lunch break, before bed. Make it a habit. You could even set a reminder on your phone so you don't forget. Don't overcomplicate it. Just make reading a regular part of your day. Step 4. Track your progress. Keep track of the books you read. You can write it down in a notebook or use an app. For example, you could make a list of books or even write a short note after you finish each one. I really liked that book. Or, the story was fun but challenging. Tracking your progress is encouraging, and it reminds you how much you're learning. Step 5. Push through the slow days. You will have days when reading feels slow. It's normal. Don't worry if you don't understand everything or if you feel frustrated. Just keep going. Even on the slow days, you are getting better. Here's the trick. Don't try to understand every word. If you don't get a word, guess its meaning from the context. And remember, it's okay to leave some words behind. Just keep reading. If you feel really stuck, don't be afraid to take a break, but always come back. Reading isn't about being perfect. It's about progress. Step 6. Enjoy the process. Reading should be fun, not a chore. If you choose books that interest you, reading will become something you look forward to. You might even start to feel like you're living in English, and that's exactly the feeling you want. You don't have to understand every word. You don't have to read at a super fast speed. The goal is to enjoy the process and let your brain absorb the language naturally. Step 7. Keep going. You will see progress. It might be slow at first, but it will get faster. You'll notice that you understand more, you feel more confident, and you start to think in English. That's the magic of reading. The important thing is to keep going, even when it feels slow, even when you're not sure if you're making progress. Trust the process. Reading works, and it will work for you too. Final reminder: reading is the secret. The most fluent English learners, the ones who sound natural, who speak confidently, who understand English without translating, they all have one thing in common: they read. Now, you know the secret too. Reading is the key to fluency, and the best part is, it's not hard. It's fun, and you can start today. So go ahead, pick up a book, find a quiet moment, and start reading. Even if you read only 5 minutes a day, you are getting better. And that's all that matters. Your journey to fluent English begins with the first page. Start today, and you'll be amazed at how far you can go. If you found this helpful and you're ready to start your reading journey, please subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button so more learners like you can find this video. And let me know in the comments, what book will you read first? I read every comment, and I'd love to help you on your journey. Happy reading and happy learning. Star.